And I'm just going to do a final sound check before we get started. If there's anybody out there who can't hear me, go ahead and chat in and let me know. Of course, if you can't hear me, you wouldn't. Hopefully you'll see the message in the chat. We'll get started here in just a second. And please, if you're typing, once the webinar starts, go ahead and continue to go ahead and chat that in. Chat in anything, any of the programs or services that you want to share at your library, because even if the webinar started, people will still want to hear about the interesting things going on at your library. So, okay, let's go ahead and get started with this morning's webinar. I want to welcome everybody, all of our presenters and our attendees for being here with us today. This is Charlie Taylor from KDLA, one of the CE consultants. We're super excited for this webinar. I can't wait to hear our libraries kind of show off about these awesome programs and services they're providing at their libraries. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. The chat pod will be in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen throughout the entire webinar, and you can use that to chat in any kind of questions that you have for our presenters today. If you have anything you want to add, anything you want to share about how you've done it at your library, please feel free to use that chat pod. It's a great way for you guys to kind of connect with each other and share ideas and suggestions. You can also use it if you have any kind of technical difficulties, and I'll be here on the phone the whole time, and I'll do my best to help you out with those. This webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to review it. If there's anything you want to go back over once the webinar is over, or share it with any of your coworkers, any of your colleagues, please feel free to do that. And you will, if you're attending the webinar live, will be getting a certificate of attendance for being here with us today. So I think that's all I have got to say. I'm going to go ahead and move us into the screen for our first presenter, and she is Allison Morgan, the Assistant Director at the Anderson Public Library, not too far from us here in Frankfort, just a little bit south in Lawrenceburg. So I'd like to welcome you, Allison, and I'll go ahead and mute my phone and you can take over.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Allison Morgan from the Anderson Public Library. Today I'm going to talk to you about mobile printing. The first thing people ask is, why mobile printing? And the first reason is because our mission is inspiring curiosity, fueling imagination, and building community. And we try to take our mission and go farther with it than we possibly could have dreamed. And our director is very good at allowing us to take our ideas and run with them. The second reason is because technology is on the go. As we know, everybody has a smartphone or device, laptops they bring in the library, and they set up shop, and they want to be able to print from their devices. Which brings me to the third reason, print on demand. We have people coming in the library every day needing boarding passes, tickets for events, wanting to print pictures, and last-minute documents. So we provide mobile printing. How do you get started with mobile printing? The way that we did it was we worked with Envisionware. If you have Envisionware, PC reservation, you use LPT1, Library Document Station, you can get started with this. You do have to have version 4.9 upgraded, and you can call your rep for more information if you're interested in finding more about this. So Envisionware is partnering with Printer On, and their motto is print simply anywhere. Printeron.net is a nationwide service that a lot of hotels provide, so you can link up with them through Envisionware. If somebody is a user of Printeron, they can click up here where it says, where can I print? And my arrow's not working, Charlie. And then they can go through the steps of finding what state, what city, and find your library or to be able to print at the mobile printing. There's the first thing you need to do when you start mobile printing is make it accessible, because if people don't know that you have it, then they're not going to use it. So the first thing we did was to put it on our website. We did a Facebook post. We put it in our newsletter. We let everybody know, hey, here it is, come and use it. The second way that you can use it is through an app. The third way is an email. And the other things you need to remember is to have a self-service kiosk for people who just want to come in and get their prints and leave, but also to train staff how to use it so that they can help the patrons who come in the library step by step get that app or go through the website and get done what they need to do. So here's our library's website. We upgraded our website about a year ago, maybe, and it's right there under library resources. Mobile printing, very prominent. Then when you go to the next screen, mobile printing, I typed it down here so you could read it. Users of the Anderson Public Library can print from home or their mobile device. 15 cents a page, 50 cents for color. They can even pay with a credit card if they print $1 or more. So that's been very helpful for people. Let's see. Okay, so 4 easy steps. Pick the printer, put your email address in, browse for your files, and then click the green icon, and then it sends it to our library document station, which is the Envisionware module for people to pick up their print jobs. There's some file types that will not print, so they give us a list of printable file types. When in doubt, save it as a PDF or a JPEG, and it's going to print. If it's a Microsoft Word file or Excel file that's too old, or a Word, I can't think of the name of that, not Microsoft, but a different one, then they can just save it as a PDF and print it just fine. So they also can use the apps. As I said before, the app is called Printer On, and you can get it from the App Store for Apple devices or Android Google Play. Mobile printing through email is very easy. They provided us with these email addresses, which we could have made into anything, but we made it very easy. acpl@bw.printspots.com. They email their documents to us, and they come through the printer. Here's a picture of our self-service kiosk. They would click on Release a Print Job. If they're on the public computers, they would use the top portion where it says public computers, and they put in their library card number. But if they're mobile, they would put in their email address. Thank you, Gemma. Yes, open office was what I was thinking. So training staff to help is key with anything, any new service. Of course, we all know we want to empower them, we want to give them appreciation, but also give them consistency and say, this is how you do it. If somebody comes in with a phone, this is what you do. If somebody comes in with a laptop, this is what you do. And we've actually had some very good reactions from some of the staff. They're a little more tech nervous, I call it, tech nervous, because they don't always like to touch people's devices or even get near them. So engage them and find out what their learning curve is so that they can properly serve the public. Here's a picture of us helping someone with the phone. We've had some glitches with it, but overall it's been a great experience for us to have mobile printing. People come in, they have their phone in their hand, and they turn it towards you and say, I need to print this. It used to be, well, we got to get you on a computer, do you have a library card, da 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 da, and finally, eventually, they get their print job and they leave. Now, they send it from their phone, quick and easy, they're done, they're out the door, and it's a wonderful service that we've been providing. We have people who come in with laptops all the time and want to print directly from their laptop, and now we can provide them that service. So, that was mobile printing, quick and dirty. If you have questions, please let me know.
Okay, Allison, awesome. Like you said, quick and dirty. I love it. And it looks like we have Gemma typing. If you're typing in a question, there you go. There was a question for Allison. I was thinking she might.
The lag time with the mobile printing, sometimes there is a lag time, but generally if it's somebody that has a laptop, the lag time is a lot less. The lag time tends to happen more with the phone. and I think it's because of the cellular service in this building. It's not the greatest. What the time that takes to get the print release station has hindered staff and patrons buy-in. No, actually not, because they're used to coming in and sitting down to a public computer and releasing their print jobs, and this is actually a lot quicker. So it's actually helped staff get it done faster and feel more comfortable. I hope that answered your question. See, Christy is typing in. We did have some difficulties with our print jobs going to the staff workstation instead of the LDS. We have a staff workstation that will release the print jobs to, so they had to work some of those kinks out. Like testimony here again and getting people excited. No, it has not cut down on the number of computer users. Our computer use statistics are continue to grow every day. If you want some ideas about promoting, please contact me. I can show you what we've done. Anyone else?
I was going to ask you that, Allison, if there was anything in particular that you did to promote it, or if people just kind of gravitated towards it at your old library.
Well, we did a Facebook post about it, and we hung some different signage over near the print release station so people know that it's something they can do. And now when somebody comes in and says, I need to print something, our first question is it on your phone, or is it, you know, instead of saying, oh, well, let me get you a computer, they have their phone in their hand, I need to print something, then our first thing is, okay, go to the mobile app. This is what you do. So it's actually taken the service in a different direction.
Awesome. Excellent. And we have Allison's email address there on the screen, and I'll have I think I have it again at the end, maybe not, but there, there it is on this screen. So if you would like to see any examples, as she said, of what they did for promotion, go ahead and email her. Thank you so much, Allison, and if you all think of any questions for her as we go along, go ahead and chat those in, and we'll come back around to her a little bit later.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move us into our second presenter. This is Christy Lane. She is at the Belfry branch of the Pike County Library District, and she's going to talk about gardening program that they have started at their library. Christy, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Christy Lane. I'm with the Belfry Public Library. It's part of the Pike County Public Library, and we are going to talk about creating a community or children's garden. Now, originally, when we started our garden, it started out as a children's garden, but there was a lot of community involvement in it, so it's kind of evolved in that way. I try not to get overwhelmed, so I break things down into steps, and this was kind of a big project for us, so I broke this project down into steps to kind of, you know, help you get through one and then work on the next. So the first step would be to choose a location. And to choose a location, you would need to know a couple of things. How large or small do you want your garden to be? And you want to know what you want to plant so that you know where to put your garden, because, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the next slides, but you want to make sure that your plants, if you're choosing plants that are going to need a lot of sunlight, that, you know, needs to be a location with a lot of sunlight, and if it needs a partial shade or that kind of thing. So the next step is, I keep going backwards here, sorry. The next step is to find the materials that you'll need, and for this step we like to consult people that know what they're doing. I do very little gardening at home. I've just done a little herb garden and things like that. So for this step, we talk to our Master Gardeners group, which is part of the UK Extension Office in Pikeville. And they come out and actually get soil samples and test your soil if you're going to be using just planting in the ground. And if you're doing the raised bed gardens, then they actually brought us the soil we'd need, and we did this project in conjunction with them. Then the next thing you'll need to look at is tools. You want to make sure that you have the tools that you need when you start this project. You don't want to get out there with a bunch of children and not have, what you need. So you'll need some adult-sized shovels and things like that. But then you'll also need, if you're doing a children's garden like we did, you'll need the child-sized shovels and spades and maybe some gloves and things like that, just to make it more fun and, not have anybody get upset over their hands being dirty, that kind of thing. The next thing is to choose your plants. The plants you'll choose depends on what region you're in, how much space you have to work with, the purpose of your garden, which can be like vegetables or fruit, or it can be herbs, or if you want it just to add some color to your yard in the library, then you'll want to choose, flowering plants. So it depends on what you want your purpose for your garden to be. And then the colors you want, that makes a big difference in how your garden is going to look at times with your other surrounding plants and things that you have already in your yard. How much sun and shade the garden will get, of course, reflects what kind of plants you can use. So you want to make sure that you do your research, and also the time that you want to put into maintaining your garden. And that's a big one because you will have a lot of help, usually, like us planting the garden. You will have a lot of help harvesting the garden, but then you may not have any help in between when you're out weeding it and maintaining it, watering it each day, things like that. So you want to make sure that you're not getting over your head and picking plants that need a lot of maintenance. This is a really important step for me because I like to communicate what I'm doing on paper rather than through words. I feel like that gets the communications a little more drawn together. So you want to draw out your ideas. The larger the project, of course, the more important this step is. And you can use programs like Procreate and Adobe Illustrator, which are free in the app stores on many devices. And those are fairly easy to use. They're self-explanatory in a lot of ways. You don't have to get into the really hard stuff with Adobe Illustrator. You can just use the main program. Getting your ideas down on paper can convey those ideas to other people. So when we take ideas to our administration, we want to make sure that they're seeing the outcome that we're going to see. So it's really important to have something down on paper for both parties to see. And then also to have it down as an artistic rendering can also be an enormous help when we're moving into our next step, which is finding the funds for the project. This is a sample project of a colleague of mine. This hasn't come to light. This is something that we threw together. It's kind of a dreamy thing that we want to do. Hopefully one of these days we can get it done. But you'll see over here to your left, okay, I got the arrow now. To the far left, you'll see this is a Google image that we just pulled from Google of over one of our libraries, one of the backyards of one of our libraries. And this is a really large backyard. And it doesn't have a lot in it. So we like to dream around here. And we took Adobe, I think it was Adobe, no, it was Procreate. And she took this picture and she just basically colored it in. And then the first phase we have here was just a little herb garden to the side and some berry bushes. And then the next phase was, just expand on that. And then we added some sidewalks and a reading circle. And then the last step, we added a tree, some benches, a few more raised gardens, things like that. So we were really excited about this little dream of ours, and thought that, it might be a good way to show you what we're talking about as far as getting it down on paper. If we took this out into the community and asked for donations, we would be much more likely to get donations from businesses who would like to see this come to life, rather than say, hey, we have in mind a project for the backyard, and we'd love to have your help, because they might be looking totally different at something, that they're wanting for that backyard than we had. So finding the funds to make it happen, we normally talk to nonprofit organizations. We talk to the Kentucky Extension Office, the Master Gardeners, which in our case has been an enormous help. They've done a lot for us. They've provided the soil, they provided seeds and plants. They even came in and put together the raised garden boxes, and they just did wonderful. Our local high school and college groups often they need to get some community service time in and things, so they are great to go to if you need some hands-on help. A lot of times if you're doing a children's garden, you'll want more people there to help with that. So, they're good for that. They're really good with the kids a lot of the time. You want to go to local businesses, and then also you want our Friends of the Library organizations are great to help with this. In anticipation of our new children's garden, you can see the pictures here. We planted seeds in these small children's pools because we hadn't got the garden together yet. And then we watched them grow each week. They got to water them each week when they came back for story hour and for summer reading. And then when we got the beds in, this is our location. I was so excited. We had went back and forth for weeks about a place to do these beds, these garden beds. And we went out and measured between these two light poles, and it was so simple. It was right in front of the library. And we went all the way around the building looking for a good place to put these that everybody can agree on. So I took these pictures and I said, this would work perfect. What do you think? The administration came back and said, yes, that would work, and we were good to go. So you'll see here, same place as you saw in the last picture. This is our Master Gardener group, and they finished putting the raised garden beds together and brought us some soil. They brought some plants to put in there, and then they helped our kids later on that day with planting. We transplanted a lot of the plants from our pools to the garden beds, and then they explained to us that there were some that did not need to be transplanted because they were not for direct sun. So we left those in the pool. They were in the shade. But you can see here our kids were having a ball. They got to dig in the dirt and mix everything up, and we've been doing this now. This will make our third year. So this is a couple of different years pictures that you're seeing here with the kids. Okay, so this is our first year's garden. This was after the Master Gardeners went out and kind of cleaned it up a little bit. And you can see over here there's a blueberry bush we had donated from Tractor Supply. We had some watermelon plants. We planted two packets, just very small packets of watermelon plants. And we planted them in our pools. And they were tiny and kind of scrawny, and we didn't know if they were going to make it, but they need to be in direct sun. So we were hoping that putting them out here would, bring them back to life a little bit. And then our tomato plants, we planted those from seeds as well. There was a couple of those that survived the pools. And then the Master Gardeners brought us these mums in that you see in the front. And then, the kids got to plant those. So they enjoyed all that. But this is the fun part. This is 6 weeks later. We couldn't find the mums anymore. The watermelon, and that's what you see here, has taken completely over our garden in 6 weeks' time. Like I said, it was 2 packs of watermelon seeds, so be careful with the watermelon. But you can see here, now the pumpkins in the back, they are not something that we grew. We were getting ready to do a pumpkin painting day and scarecrow making day, and that just happened to be when I took this picture. And you can see our watermelon plant was actually growing up over the tomato plant here. And we have all kinds of little watermelon plants, or watermelons, that are growing. You can see those here in this next slide. And this is just a closer up version of that picture. You can't really see the watermelons when you look at the vines, but these are underneath those vines, and we had the whole community involved in this. They were coming and lifting up vines constantly, trying to see if there was a new watermelon they hadn't seen yet. So it was fun. This is our second year garden, which was a little more planned out as far as spacing and where we put everything. We did plant from seeds, and then we transplanted them over. Master gardeners actually brought us these marigolds, the orange flower, to help with insects, because we did have an insect problem. You can see over here with the blueberry bush that they were eating the blueberries pretty good, the leaves anyway. And we didn't want them to start getting into our tomatoes and our blueberries, because the kids love to get out there and pick those, and adults. So we wanted to make sure we didn't have to spray with anything or anything. So they brought marigolds, and we planted those, and they kind of exploded all over the place here. There was just a few of those, and that kept the bugs down quite a bit. You can see that these are pumpkin and watermelon plants. We decided we wanted some pumpkins and watermelons this year, and we didn't get the results that we wanted like we did the previous year on the watermelon, or pumpkins for that matter, but we did get a few. And then you can see this blueberries on our blueberry bushes. They grew quite a few blueberries, and the kids loved going out and picking them. This is just more of our second year garden, the marigolds, the peppers. We love planting vegetables around here, anything the kids can go out and pick. And then we have a lot of patrons, adult patrons, that will come in and ask, oh, can I pick some of those tomatoes? And we had so many that we still have them rotting on the ground because we didn't have as many people as we thought at first wanting to pick them. Or maybe they were just, I think, a little shy about picking them, and they didn't want to ask. So other things that you need to consider when you're doing your garden, and these kind of live and learn things for me. Certain plants need additional supplies, such as these metal cages that we got for our tomato plants. They started growing really big when we got them out in the sun, and they were falling over, and they were very heavy, so we had to get these cages, and that helped with all the tomatoes staying up. Buying and spreading mulch can help cut down on the weeding, so we decided, well, Master Gardeners decided that that would be the best way to do, to keep us from having to weed so much. And it also keeps the moisture in the ground better, where it's a direct sunlight garden. The mulch kind of protects the roots a little more, holds the moisture in, keeps it from evaporating. And a garden hose that will reach your garden is also a necessity. So things just not to overlook, I guess. The best thing I can tell you about a garden for your library is to have fun with it. And we have loved the interest that our garden has created in our community. This is a garden workshop flyer that we're hoping to host at toward the end of this month on the 24th. We invited local schools to have kids come after school at 4. The homemakers, Belfry homemakers through the extension office agreed to do ice cream and refreshments, so that's always nice. And we advertise hands-on gardening, and the Master Gardeners will be there just to give them tips. A lot of the parents like to talk to the Master Gardeners about their gardens this time of year. So it's a really nice thing, and we usually have a really good turnout. So I have a question for all of you all now. For several weeks, the community tried to decide if this was a pumpkin or a watermelon. And remember, I told you, this was last year, this was our second year, and we did plant watermelons and pumpkins. So which do you think this is? We had a huge discussion on this on Facebook, ongoing for a few weeks until we finally figured out what it was. So, okay, well, I see Felicia and Charlie. Okay, everybody is saying pumpkin. So you guys, zucchini. Well, if we'd planted zucchini, that would have probably been a good guess too, but we didn't plant zucchini that year. Okay, well, I can't believe you guys are all very good at this because pumpkin is right, and we had so many people arguing this had to be a watermelon. So, you know, it was a fun little discussion, and it brought a lot of the community up to look at our garden to see for themselves what they thought it was rather than just look at the pictures. So it was a good way to give it a more interest in the community. So that is all of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Allison, I didn't necessarily see any questions, but we got a couple of people who really like the idea of using Google Maps to start with a kind of a way to get your plan going. So that's a really great idea. And the other Christy at Bath County is super excited about maybe getting this idea started at her new library property that they've just purchased. So, in Jamitu, yay! Oh, there's a question from Kathy.
We've seen where other people have done the seed libraries, and we were interested in it, but we didn't have enough interest, I guess, in the community to start it right away, and we may explore that in the future. I really like the idea of it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. Christy, that was awesome. And yes, your slides were beautiful. All those great pictures. Okay, and if you all think of any questions for Christy as we go along, please feel free to chat those in, and we'll come back around to her at the end. I'm going to switch us over to Kathy Watson. She is the director of the Eston County Public Library, and she's going to tell us about their super successful concert series. So, Kathy, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. First of all, this is our library. It is located on Main Street. As you can tell, it's a rather small building. When I tell people that I work at Eston County Public Library, they want to know where that is. So we are located right here between Clark, Powell, Madison, Lee, Jackson County. We're right on the Kentucky River. And just how small are we? Our building was built in 1976, and we have a 5,700 square foot facility. We have 20 parking spaces, and of course that's both public and staff parking. And the biggest complaint that we get is lack of parking. We have one handicap parking spot, which is obviously not nearly enough. We also have one community room or meeting room, and it seats 36 people with standing room. We've had 50 or so in the room at one time. We have 8 public computers. We offer high-speed internet and public Wi-Fi. We have 6 full-time staff people, including our bookmobile librarian, and we have 2 part-timers. We serve a rural population. Our population is in decline, and most of the people who live here work outside the county. So we have a lot of commuters, and we are sort of a bedroom community. And how did we get started with Pickin' in the Park? Several things led up to this. For summer reading 2017, we decided that we wanted to have an event in the evenings that was geared toward adults, because most of our summer reading has focused on children or school-age young people. So we decided that we wanted to do something that was going to draw in a demographic that we don't see as much in the library. And we got inspiration from some of the things that happen in our community. There had been a long-standing bluegrass festival in our area. It started in 1978 and ran through 2016 until the promoter passed away, and his family did the Bluegrass Festival one more year, and then that kind of stopped. But we also have a new music festival coming up, and this draws people from not only local people, but also people from all around who have an interest in bluegrass music or country or Americana. So we felt that we had a good audience for the kind of programming that we wanted to do. And there is a big music movement in our area, in Eston County, and I know Powell County is experiencing something similar, and a lot of the surrounding counties in our area are seeing a real growth in country, Americana, and the folk music movement. So we wanted to kind of work off that. We got a new adult services programmer in 2015, and she was a very talented musician. And so she started a program on Saturdays. One Saturday a month, we had what she called acoustic music jam. She would bring her banjo, and other musicians would just come in and play together and jam for an hour. So that was another one of our inspirations for this program. In addition to that, I had gone to KLA, and I think it was in 2016, and someone did a presentation where they were, I believe it was titled Programs That Pack the Place. And I'm pretty sure that's the session that I'd gone to. But in that, they talked about doing a music series at their library, and they did it outdoors. So that kind of added to my interest. There's a park behind our building. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the city, and it's very little used. And so I started thinking about how we could make use of that. And then, of course, we have young people, 20s, 30s, as well as high school age, who complain that there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do in our community. So we wanted to address that. And then finally, we had a young woman approach us. She wanted to use our meeting room on a Saturday to conduct a songwriting workshop. And the teen services programmer worked with her, got that organized, and he started talking to her about her music, and she ended up giving him a lot of contacts who were local musicians. And so how much does it cost to run a concert series? Well, we decided that we were going to offer $100 per performance. Once we started making out our list of potential musicians, we decided that would fit in our programming budget. We also, the only other cost for the cost of having our attorney look over the kind of boilerplate performance contract that we found on legal forms, and then the cost of mailing contracts once we had written them and had contacted the musicians and gotten them to agree to perform for us, just the cost of postage, and then the printing that we did at the library, and then bottled water for concerts, and then finally the cost of a banner from stickersbanners.com. So that's what we spent our first year, $100 per performance, and then these other much lesser costs. So in that first year, we spent a maximum of about $1,600. And how did we go about spreading the word about our concerts? We, of course, used the community news section of our local newspaper. They're really good about putting in our library happenings. We also went to WEKU-FM's calendar of events page and advertised there. We used the calendar on our library homepage to promote the different concerts concerts that we were doing, and then we used Facebook and our monthly printed calendar of events. And we also contacted the local radio stations, and we did flyers and posters that we took around to different places in the community to get the word out. And then we created a really large banner, the one that we bought from stickersbanners.com, and we just hung it on the pavilion at the park, which is right next to the street, so it got good visibility. And then on the day of the concert each week, we would stick a sign out in the front of the library to let people know that there was a free concert that night. And then we did a lot of staff promotion just by word of mouth, reminding people when they would come in that we had a concert coming up the next day or the next week or whatever. And location, we don't have enough space on our property, so I went to the City Hall and talked to our mayor and asked him if we could use Rising Park, which is a wooded area right behind the library across the street from us. And this is actually the stage that's right next to the street. And we decided not to use that because it was small and there was limited seating. People would have had to sit on the grassy bank right in the full sun in the afternoon. So we decided that's not where we were going to do the performances, but rather following this little path back into a wooded area, there was a larger picnic shelter, and that's where we decided that we would do the concert. It's very quiet back here. It's shaded in the evenings, and there are enough picnic tables that we can provide quite a bit of seating. So if you have an interest in doing something like we have done with our community concerts, you need to choose something that is in pretty close proximity to the library. We're able to just run across the street and check the facility the day of the concert to make sure that there's no trash, that there's no cleanup or anything that needs to be done. And then we also go over and hang lights and that kind of thing. And the area that we have is it is a little secluded, so you don't have the noise of passing traffic or anything as we would have done had we used the actual bandstand at the front of the park. People really enjoy coming to our concerts in the evenings, and one of the comments that we get from them in our surveys, our feedback surveys, is that it's so peaceful and it's so quiet and picturesque back there. They just enjoy that setting along with the music. When we learned after the first few concerts that as our concert season moved along and we moved into the fall, we found that it was starting to get a little darker in the evening, so we hung lanterns. We hung lights in the pavilion so that we had soft lighting rather than harsh light from overhead lights. And when we had to move indoors, which was not often, we had maybe 2 or 3 concerts where the weather did not cooperate with us, so we moved inside. And on those occasions, we found that if we left the overhead lights turned off and we hung our lanterns that we used out in the pavilion, that would be much more the kind of ambience that we were looking for. And how important is timing? Very important. And if you're going to use an outdoor venue the way we did, then you definitely need to pay attention to the weather. And last year we started our concerts in June, so we ran the whole month of June and then the entire month of July. And we got such good feedback that we decided we wanted to do a fall concert series as well. So we started back in September and ran all through the month of September, and then we had concerts all through the month of October. So we were very fortunate last year with the weather. This year we decided that we were going to start our concerts back prior to the summer reading. So we had our first concert Tuesday night of this week, and the weather was perfect. We were very blessed. And then also consider the performers. We knew that most of the people that we were asking to perform for us made the big bucks when they performed at public venues or at restaurants or festivals or whatever. But we also so I decided that we needed to choose a time, number one, that didn't compete with other regular events that happened in our community, and also I needed to pick a time that was not going to be one of those times when performers are already being heavily booked. So we decided on a Tuesday night, a weeknight, and we started doing our concerts from 6:30 to 7:30 every Tuesday, and we kept that consistent. And that's one of the things with programs like this. You really need to keep them consistent, the same day each week and at the very same time. So even when the days started to shorten and it started to get dark earlier, we didn't change our hours. We kept them at, from 6:30 to 7:30. And a lot of the performers were happy to come and do a show for us, even if we were only paying $100. And that was $100 per performance, not per performer, because we had several groups that played for us. So, and again, timing, I think, is part of that. If we had tried to do our concerts on a Friday night or on a weekend or even on a Thursday night, I think we would have had far less participation by the musicians, because many of them are booked for their gigs that actually pay well. Is there anything else that you need to know if you're planning on doing something similar to what we've done? Well, there are several things that I thought I would mention. First of all, do partner with the community. And we were fortunate enough that the city has a park across the street from us, so we were able to get the mayor to commit to that. And they keep the park mowed and do all of the maintenance kinds of things. They even went in and made a lot of repairs as our concert series went on, because they saw what kind of participation we were getting. And it was also letting people know that that park was there. Most people had forgotten that there was even a park in that area. So our doing the concerts has really given it more visibility. And usually the city will charge a fee for using the park, but for us, they took care of the registration fee. So again, that was a good way for us to do programming that was low cost or no cost. And do have a backup location in case the weather is not cooperative. And when we found out early that we needed to keep our meeting room available every Tuesday night, just in case there was inclement weather, so that we could move indoors should we have to do that. And again, we only had to do that 2 or 3 times throughout last year's season. If you're going to do an event and you are doing it off-site, make sure that you are checking everything, usually several times a day on the day of the concert, if not before. So we go up and check the restrooms. We check to make sure that the electricity is working. We've had a couple of times that there were issues with that. And unfortunately, this being an isolated location, we have gone up to check on the picnic pavilion area, and we found detritus, things that you don't want kids to find, in addition to things like needles. So be vigilant about that sort of thing. And I will say, our using the park the way we have has caused a lot more people to come and use it, and it's no longer the isolated place that some people will go to in order to shoot up, because unfortunately we have the same issue that a lot of other communities have, where we have a real increase in drug use, and it's done right out in public, obviously. If you're going to do a concert series and you're going to do it off-site, make sure that you do have at least 2 staff members available to work at the concert. There's a lot of running to be done. There are last-minute things that happen, so it helps to have 2 bodies present for that. And you can't get too much publicity, and no matter how much we publicize, we still have people respond to our surveys by saying that we need to get the word out more. So that's something that we are constantly working on, to try to figure out how to get the word out to more people. And I will say that Facebook has been huge for us, because we will post our events on Facebook, and then our Facebook friends will share and comment, and that goes a long way in getting the word out. And then every time you do a concert, make notes about the things that went well and the things that didn't go well. We're always looking for ways to make improvements. We started out by not doing any extra lighting, for instance, at the pavilion. But as time went on, we found that the extra lighting added to the ambiance and just made it a more pleasant place to be. And another thing that we started doing was providing citronella candles and bug spray, because of course in the hot of the summer you're gonna have mosquitoes. So that's something that we added to our list of must-haves. This is our concert lineup for Pickin' in the Park 2017, and this was our first lineup. And some of these people were regular performers, and some of them had performed for their friends but had never really done public performances. So it was kind of fun to watch the growth of the musicians as our concert series continued. And we also found that the people who were going to be performing later in the season would come to the other concerts, and they kind of would cheer each other on. And there were a couple of our performers. Michael, for instance, had never performed other than at home in front of his family and friends. So his concert with us was the first that he'd done as a public concert, and he's a fabulous musician, and we really enjoyed him. And also, this performer, Aaron, he's our performer next Tuesday night. He has composed quite a few songs, and he had not performed any of his songs in public. So when he came and did our concert, that was his first public performance of those pieces. And I especially am fond of Aaron because he came to almost every concert. He may have missed one. And he was our troubleshooter. If the musicians needed something, if they forgot a piece of equipment, if something wasn't working right, then Aaron was right there helping them out. And then again, all of the performers, or many of the performers, would come back to the concerts that their friends were doing, and they were their cheering section. They'd cheer them on and encourage them, so that was a lot of fun. It was fun to watch the interaction between a lot of these musicians. Many of them are local, people who live right here in our county, but others are regional. We had the local Honeys. They I think are from Jessamine County maybe, and they do quite a few concerts and performances. They were fabulous. But our best attendance was with Sonora May. Sonora, if you're familiar with the Americana folk country movement right now, you might be familiar with her husband. She's married to Tyler Childers. Unfortunately, we have not been able to get Tyler to book into our Pickin' in the Park concerts yet. And as you can see, with promotion, we created these very simple posters, and we post them on our Facebook page. We post them on our library page. We hang them in the library, and then we take them around the community so that our community partners can help us publicize our event. This is the lineup for this month. We started back again on Tuesday night, and we did something Tuesday that we hadn't done before. We asked a local group of students to come and perform. And it was interesting, when we had the concert on Tuesday night, we had more teens at the concert than we generally have, because for last summer we had a lot of parents with school-age children, young children. We had a lot of people who were in their late 20s and 30-somethings, and then we had older people, but we weren't getting teens. So it was nice to see a lot of teens at the concert that we did on Tuesday night, when these two young men and their teacher came and performed just acoustic music. They didn't sing. They just played guitar, and it was a very relaxed and fun time. We also encourage people to bring a picnic dinner with them, and some people do, but most people don't. And we're hoping this year that will become more of a thing, that people will just come early and make an evening of it. And on that note, in addition to people coming to our concert, we found out after the first couple last year that the musicians were using us as sort of a pre-show. So they would come perform for us, and then they would leave our venue, and they would go to what's referred to here as the Skeeter Ranch, which is the American Legion. The musicians would go up there and have an after party, so they would do a second concert on Tuesday evening. And we've had people come from all over. There have been music promoters who have come to our Tuesday night concerts. There are other musicians who are curious, and they come and want to see what's going on. So it's been fun just looking at the audience. And finally, this is Cale. He just left us to find a full-time job. He was our team services person, but he only worked part-time. And he was the young man who talked with Sonora Childers and got lists of performers and their contact information. So he contacted them, got contracts to them. He would set up the venue every week, and then he also emceed the concerts and each one of the concerts. So he was fabulous, and he really did a lot to help us get this concert going and to publicize it. So we're very appreciative of Cale and hate that we weren't able to keep it. So at this point, does anybody have questions for me?
Kathy, this is Charlie. I'm wondering how you all chose, or how you choose your performers. They, ask you? Has somebody had to hear them before?
Cale usually would vet them. So before we would send them a contract, he would either go and hear them somewhere, or sometimes he would go onto their Facebook pages, and lots of times they will have links to their performances on YouTube, for instance. So he would vet them before we booked them.
Gotcha.
This year we were also working on getting more young people to perform, so we did that with our first concert. And later on this summer we have a family, they're the Watsons, and it's a parent, a father, and then his school-age kids. And they go to a lot of festivals and things. So we're hoping to do more of that. We also have the group Highway 15. They're from Powell County. And they are all, I think one of the performers is in college, and the rest of them are high school age or younger. And again, they perform at a lot of festivals and other venues like that. And we're hoping by drawing in some of these younger performers that we are going to get more of the teens into our concert. And we've had lots of people contact us via our Facebook page to ask us if they can perform. And again, we do vet them before we send them a contract and book them.
That's what I wondered, if the more popular the concert series got, if you would start getting people asking to perform.
There have been a couple that we have chosen not to book. And then also, this is a family. It's a family event, and I've noticed with some of the musicians, they will change the words in their songs to reflect that. And it's also funny when we have to move into the library for our concerts. Everybody gets really, really quiet because they're in the library. Whereas when we have the concerts out in the park, everybody moves around and they kind of they'll talk a little bit among themselves, and it's just a more relaxed, casual atmosphere. But we had one musician actually tell us he appreciated his concert in the library because he said it's like a real concert. He's used to playing in sports bars and that kind of venue, and he says that usually you're playing and the people are talking. But he said this feels more like a real concert because people are sitting here and they're actually listening and not carrying on conversation. So that was an interesting perspective.
Mm-hmm. That is nice. Well, thank you so much, Kathy. We really appreciate it. If you all have any questions for Kathy, again, please go ahead and chat those in. I'm just going to go ahead and move on and kind of wrap up, but we will go ahead and take those questions if you have. That was a lot of awesome information. Let me just move real quickly through these ending slides, and we'll come back and address that question. We want to thank the Institute of Museum and Library Services for their sponsorship of this webinar. And just a quick reminder to follow us on social media. We do have a couple of webinars coming up, but we are going to be slowing things down going into the summer season. So visit our continuing education calendar to register for any of these. And yeah, it looks like Kathy's addressing Christy's question about, oh yeah, getting programs out through local restaurants. That is an interesting idea.
We're hoping to actually have some of the local restaurants sponsor some of the events, and then we will feel better about promoting their business if they're the sponsor of that night's concert. We're kind of looking for ways of maybe having people patronize that particular restaurant if they're the night's sponsor.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank all of our presenters, Allison, Christy, and Kathy, so much for the time they took in putting these presentations together and for being here with us today. And I hope you all got some great ideas. I'm going to go ahead and open up our survey about today's webinar. It's going to open up on your computer right now, and it's just a quick 5-question survey. And it's very important to us that we get any kind of feedback, any kind of suggestions about the webinar. Also, if you're watching the recording of this webinar, please go ahead and take that survey as well. And we also have the full PDF of today's slides available for download in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. So with that, I'm going to officially end the webinar, but if you want to stick around and just kind of chat a little bit, that is fine. I want to thank everybody for attending today, and again, thank our attendees. And you all have a great afternoon. Thanks for being here with us today.